Our Computex 2024 coverage is made possible by Azus, G-Skill, Fantex, Team Group, Lian Li, ASRock, Corsair, XPG, Thermaltake, Clev, Montech, and Seasonic. Welcome back, guys. I'm Stuart from TGF, and it's day 2 at Computex 2024, and we're at the Corsair suite. Now, there's not too much we are going to cover because it is absolutely packed here. So what we're going to do is take a look at two cases, a 3500X, which is smaller than the 6500X, and then a absolute monster that has been completely revamped from an older case. First off, we'll be taking a look at the 3500X. Now, recently Corsair did launch the 6500X, so this one's a little bit smaller. So what Corsair are aiming for this chassis, they're going with a all steel, all metal design. They're trying to minimize as much plastic as they can. So talking about the insides a little bit, fan support. So in this price range, so the starting model will be $90 US, and there are three in this range. There's the 3500X, which is the base 91. Then there's the 3500X ARGB, and then there's the model above, which is the IQ Link. And I'll put the prices and all that in the description, but the base model starts at 90. So what they're aiming at for the competitors in this range is better 140mm fan support. So the bottom, down the bottom there, will do a 140, of course 120. The top will do three 140s, and the side will also do three 140s. Obviously, on top of the PSU shroud, that's sort of, not everyone uses that. That is the standard stock 120s, because you can't really make that too much bigger, because then your PSU shroud won't fit in there. Now, some other aspects on this case around the back, we have better cable support along this area here behind the motherboard. I think they said it's something like 40mm of depth. A lot of cases in this range from other brands are in the 20s, so you are getting much more room for cable management. Now, there is support for all of the back connector motherboards. So that's BTF, that is MSI Project Zero, and then we also have Gigabyte Stealth. That's one we haven't really covered much at Computex, because that's been a bit of the unknown, but Corsair are saying they've worked with Gigabyte on that, and that will support that. And that also helps with the 40mm of depth in there. I think it might be a little bit more than that, but when you have the back connect motherboard, you've already got a bit of a Z height taken up with the 24-pin power connector. So you really need that extra depth for your cable management. In terms of storage, this drive cage here, it's pretty nifty what they've done here. You can fit two SSDs, 2.5-inch and two 3.5-inch hard drive simultaneously. So most of the time when you've got your SSD or hard drive brackets, it's normally two SSDs or two hard drives. This one, your SSDs go on the inside and your hard drives go on the outside. So that's pretty nifty, but if you're not using hard drives or you're only using one SSD can go there, and then you can use the IQ Link hub, can be mounted on there, which is a pretty neat little feature. Last few things I want to talk about here is the ventilation pattern they've got on the top. It's on the rear side, and then it is on the back here. So that's their Y design. I actually like it. It's something a little bit different, and it is quite large instead of very fine mesh. And there are also dust filters or mesh filters on the top and on the side here. So one last thing here is their Link external port. Now at the moment, Corsair don't have anything that utilizes this, but this can come off. I can't take it off now. I'll throw some B-roll over that. And if something in the future they have that requires an external adapter like a desk or something, that will connect in there and you are good to go. Now you probably remember this design. That was from the 1000D. Now Corsair are bringing out the 9000D RGB, and this is of course going to be an airflow edition. Now you might be thinking, well, what has actually changed? Because this does look very, very similar. So first off, for any of you guys that have built in the original 1000, the radiator brackets have been redesigned. So you unclip it on one side, unclip it from the other side, and then they slide out from the middle like so. There's no way I can reach the front one, but I'll get some B-roll on that. And I want to talk about how they have done with mounting your radiators and fans. So on the previous one, it was basically a fan bracket, and that's how you mounted your radiators straight on that. So that wasn't so good for airflow, but now it is completely different. You have guides to sort of set up which fans you're going for. It supports up to 480s on this bracket, so you can do 480s side by side. So that's two at the front, two at the top. If you do want to go with 480s, you can do thicker ones at the front and then thinner ones at the top. You just can't do thick ones all around due to clearance issues. And then you can fit a single 420 in the center, and then you can also do things like two 200s. If anyone does make, that'd probably be a 400mm radiator, which would be pretty cool if someone does do it. So the way they've done that, I'll get some shots of the actual build system out in the other room. But these can all slide. As I said, there's markings on the edges here to line up everything you need to get going with that, and then the fans and the radiators clip onto these rails, and that's pretty much it. And on the one on the front there, when we get this B-roll, it just makes it much cleaner and a much nicer look. So yeah, basically the 240s at the front, 240s at the top, and one new area is the 360 on the side. Now this is going to be limited. You can't be running dual rads at the top and then run the 360 on the side. You will have to make some compromises. You could do something like a center radiator at the top, and then you can put one on the side. Now another advantage with these rails is that these are all included for all the radiator sizes and options you need. On the previous one, you had to go out and purchase the additional bracket for the radiator size that you went with. Now, moving away from some of the water cooling parts, I want to talk about the interior. Some of it is kind of similar to the previous one, but of course we have a back connector support. That is going to be the major change. You're looking at the ROG BTF support and also the TUF support. It's not just ROG. And then we also have the MSI Project Zero, and then also Gigabyte Stealth setup as well. So that'll all be supported. And I'm also noticing that these cable grommets, they're slightly a little bit different. I believe they're using them on the 6500X and the 3500X. These ones are a double shot. So you see it's a little bit of a different color. So I would say that's a lighter gray on the outside, and that is a bit stiffer. That secures it in place. And then the middle black, I would say, is a bit softer. So whenever you're building a case, you've probably noticed that most cable grommets, you go to put your 24 pin in, you put it in, and it completely just comes off the metal insert and just gets stuck inside, and you have to feed it back around. These ones are really good. They're nice and tight. I haven't tested them with cables, but I can tell straight away that they are not falling out at all. Around the back, we have a similar design to what we saw on the original 1000D. Now, I'd probably call these doors probably barn doors is what I'll call it, and these can hide all your cables behind here. And one cool little area is we have dedicated parts or trays to hold the system hub and the lighting hub in here. Now it's going to be hard for me to reach. This just shows you how big this cage is, and these can just slot in like this. Now some other areas, we have some cable routing over on this side and over here, and this just helps with running cables from all the fans you would have at the front. Now some last areas I do want to cover on this case. Unfortunately, I couldn't go over everything as this is such a large case. The top front RGB for the I/O. This RGB is similar to how it was on the original 1000D, but now it connects to their IQ Link system. But to actually power all the USB or to plug that into your motherboard, of course they have come up with a different idea. Instead of doing the two USB 3 for the 4 of them, and then 2 separate USB Type-C internal, and then the audio, that's like 5-6 cables. What they've done is it's actually a USB hub, and that'll just be divided up by the bandwidth of the one single USB-C port you plug on the internal header, and that'll power all of that. And that also does the audio as well, and that has a DAC that controls that audio. So just one cable will do everything on that front panel. And also for controlling the RGB, because you plug that into your motherboard already, that'll be connected to IQ Link, and you can change all of the colors and the RGB settings on that. If you don't plug that in or you don't install the IQ Link, it'll just be set to rainbow. Now, one last thing I want to cover is finally this front panel. If you're familiar with the original 1000, this comes straight off like this. You got access to the dust filter on the front. You don't have to remove the whole front like last time, because I believe that was glass, and this just makes it so much easier. Now for pricing, I don't have any information on that yet, but the release date we're looking sometime in September this year. Now that's it at the Corsair Suite. As you saw, just those two cases. I could have talked about that 9000D for days, but I just wanted to cover those main few things. I can't wait to get one, do a review, and do a build for you guys. Anyway, thanks for watching. I want to thank Corsair for letting me take a look at those products, and we'll see you in the next one.